Winning the North American Scrabble Championship is hard. Outside of Nigel Richards, who has won it a staggering 5 times, almost every other former champion has won it only once. As one of those players myself, I can tell you that not only does it take years of dedication and focus, but it also requires a huge amount of luck. That's why the list of players who have won it twice is much shorter and consists of 3 absolute legends of Scrabble: Joel Sherman, David Gibson, and Dave Wiegand. But there's only one player in Scrabble history who has won 3 North American championships. That player is Joe Edley. Joe is one of the stars of Word Freak and Word Wars and is renowned for his competitive mindset, aided by meditation and Tai Chi, as well as his mastery of the dictionary, including some unorthodox study methods. He won the 1980 and 1992 championships and has long been regarded as one of the top players in the game, but headed into the 2000 championship, Joe was seeded 21st overall, by far the lowest seeding of his career heading into a national championship. Despite this unusual underdog status, with 24 of the 31 rounds in the tournament completed, Joe Edley found himself in a familiar position, at the very top of the standings. The number 1 seed and defending champion, Brian Capoletto, was 2 games back. The round 25 game between these 2 players that followed is often cited as one of the best in Scrabble history. Joe draws 7 one-point tiles to start the game, but he doesn't have a bingo, so he chooses to play for 4 points, retaining a strong 5-tile leave to play a bingo next turn. Beset with consonants, Brian plays Rutty, and after each player's subsequent move, both players are in much better shape. With a wealth of bingo options available, Joe finds his highest scoring bingo of Negatron for 64 points. Brian answers with Blungers for 80, scoring 9 more points than Buglers. It's well worth the extra points despite opening multiple triple word scores for Joe in the process. Both players struggle with their replenishment draws, this time Joe overrun by consonants, including the J, and Brian saddled with both V's. After Joe's frag and Brian's spiv, Joe draws only 1 vowel and finds his best move of Pango to the O of Negatron. But the N is just what Brian needs to play a stylish bingo of Novercal for 78, seizing a strong lead. Joe finally plays his J with Jerk for 46, his best move, although it leaves the lower triple lane wide open and opens another scoring option to Brian. And the J is indeed a welcome sight for Brian, giving him by far his best option here of Injure for 39. Although this move leaves the extremely weak UW combination, no other play comes close to the score of this one. So, more than halfway through the game, Joe is down by 70 points. Without an S or blank in hand, his winning chances dwindling. You might be thinking, this is a pretty good game, but it doesn't exactly seem legendary. Stick with me. Joe is about to unleash one of the craziest sequences you'll ever see in a Scrabble game. First, holding an unplayable Emerald, Joe still finds a way to bingo here on a tight board with Marveled through the V, keeping his winning chances alive. But Brian is still in great shape after drawing the second blank, and he makes his strongest play here of Wade for 35 points with overlaps, pumping his lead back up and saving his blank to bingo next turn. After Marveled, Joe again draws good bingo tiles, including an S, but he doesn't have a 7 or 8 letter bingo. Instead, he's likely to play a solid option of Wadi in the upper right, keeping his best bingo tiles for next turn. But Joe Edley's ability to make magic happen separates him from other players. And in this position, Joe makes one of the great moves in Scrabble history. Trail side through disconnected letters, scoring 66 points, a 42-point improvement over Wadi. Having the vision and creativity to even think of such a move being available is staggering. And without this supremely impressive 9-letter bingo, it's hard to imagine Joe winning this game. Even with trailside, Joe is still in trouble. There's now an E in prime position in a triple lane, where 8-letter words ending in ER and ED can be played across 2 triple word scores, instantly erasing Joe's slim winning chances. Instead, Brian draws the Q and 2 O's, and he somehow doesn't have anything inspiring through that E. He elects to play quota instead, which computer analysis suggests is by far his best option. Another choice like co-equal for 51, burning the blank, makes it too easy for Joe to score extremely well in response with a 5-letter word starting with a high point tile, negating Brian's advantage. After quota, Brian will still be highly likely to play a bingo with his blank next turn. Quota leaves the right side of the board untouched, though, and miraculously, Joe draws his 3rd straight bingo of matoids through the D of trail side, taking his first lead since turn 2 of the game. Undaunted, Brian makes a beautiful find of his only bingo here, Lacewood for 83 points, turning his blank into a W and retaking the lead. Without a good response from Joe, Brian is poised to finally stop Joe's furious comeback in its tracks and come away with a much-needed win. But here, Joe executes his final masterstroke in his astonishing series of plays, Showbiz from the S of Trailside for a massive 68 points. The combination of the H on the double letter score and the high point values of the Z, W, and B on the double word score give this move its enormous scoring power, even though it technically isn't a bingo. And afterwards, Joe's lead is too much for Brian to overcome, holding an H and 3 vowels. Knowing he can't win unless Showbiz is somehow invalid, and sensing that Joe going 3 games ahead in the standings will make things difficult in the final rounds of the tournament, Brian challenges the word out of desperation, and of course it comes back valid. Joe plays his final letter and finishes his epic comeback with a score of 495 to 426, a score that fails to capture how slim Joe's winning chances were throughout the game. His 4-turn spree of marveled, trailside, matoids, and showbiz is one of the most remarkable sequences I've ever seen in Scrabble. Joe would hit a speed bump with 4 losses in his next 5 games to set up one of the closest final rounds ever. In round 31, Joe faced off in a critical showdown with fellow Grandmaster Dave Wiegand in the final round, with the winner likely becoming champion. But a huge win for Brian, combined with a close game between Joe and Dave, would put Brian in the mix to be champion as well. In a great video about Scrabble from The New Yorker, Joe described the pivotal moment in that game himself.
I decided that playing Mayo would give me the best chance to bingo. And then, of course, I picked up CEKS. And I don't see a bingo right away. But then I look at the end. Immediately I see Cape Skin, and it puts the K on the double letter, and it gets a wonderful double word. That's 92 points, and that turned out to be the play of the game. It didn't win me the game immediately, but it gave me a huge lead, so that was very satisfying to find Cape Skin. It's not a word you see every day.
Joe went on to win by a score of 420 to 400, and while Brian won his game as well, it was by nowhere near enough points. And just like that, Joe Edley achieved a feat that to this day hasn't been achieved by any other North American player: 3 championship titles. Winning even one Scrabble championship requires skill, years of dedication, and a healthy dose of luck. In round 25 of the 2000 championship, Joe Edley showcased all of these attributes in a truly legendary performance. It's a performance many players cite as one of the greatest games in Scrabble history.